This video is designed to teach you about all the things you can do on a baseball reference player page, including some hidden Easter eggs that you might not know exist. Let's go to Derek Jeter's page as our first example. On his page, you've probably seen the standard tables that come up immediately. Standard batting, player value, postseason, fielding, and then appearances on leaderboards, etc., salaries, that kind of thing. But there's a lot more that you can do on this page than just call it basic stats. The first thing is that you can actually sort any of these tables that have red header tooltip rows by simply clicking on the header that you want to sort by. So if I want to sort his seasons by RBI, if you click that header, it'll actually sort all the rows by that. And the first click, it sorts descending. Second click, it sorts ascending. And then if you click it a third time, it goes back to the default. And you can do this for all of these headers. Another related item that you may have seen just then when I was mousing over is that when you mouse over one of the header rows, the tooltips, there's actually a glossary entry that comes up. So if you want to know what an abbreviation means and you're not sure, all you have to do is mouse over it and it will come up with a little box. And that's a little bit more useful than if you click this glossary item up here, which also comes up with a box that has everything in the table in one little form. But if you just want to quickly look up what a certain abbreviation means and it's in a header with a tooltip, it's probably easier just to mouse over it and you'll get to see the description. So that works on all the tables that have header tooltips, so you can also do the war table and etc. Another thing that you can do on this is you can sum up the stat totals from multiple rows within the table itself. So if I just wanted to see how Jeter did from, say, 1998 until 2002, I would click 98 and see it turns blue, and then I would click 2002, the last year of the range that I want. And when I do that, a box comes up that sums up the aggregate stats that he had over the period of time that I wanted, and also shows the average per season and then per 162, just like at the bottom of the regular table. And you can actually link to this if you click permanent link and then look up in your browser's URL box. It actually will show a link that you can share with other people, and when they click it, they'll be able to get the exact same summed set of rows. And then if you want to just clear the selection, you can hit clear selection and close. And this also works for a lot of tables that we have on the site. Most of the tables, truth be told, does not work on the postseason batting. But for a lot of the ones that have seasons and even the game logs themselves, you can sum up multiple rows if you want by doing that. Now we also have a link to more stats. If you click this, you'll be taken to a page that contains a lot more tables than the ones that you see at first glance on a player's standard stat page when you first come to it. So when you click more stats, you'll be able to get, in addition to all the tables that you see on the standard page, you'll get things like advanced batting for batters, which contains a lot of esoteric stats. You'll be able to look at all-star performance, ratios, which are just things like home run rate, strikeout rate, line drive, that kind of thing. Win probability, it breaks down the guy's win probability added and kind of the leverage index of his plate appearances. Then a lot of the really hardcore miscellaneous stats like bases taken, outs on base, situational stats like that, pinch hitting, productive outs, the rate at which they drive in base runners. So a lot of things we get asked about or get complaints that we don't have a certain stat. We actually do have that stat. So if you ever think we might not have something, check the more stats page first, because there's a pretty good chance we have it. Pitch summaries, so you can see what percentage of pitches the guy faced were strikes, etc. And even like a cumulative thing that shows his career stats through each particular age and year. and then you can use the neutralized chart to kind of convert a player's stats to a various run environment and that kind of thing. And we also have the same thing for pitchers. So if you go to Verlander and click more stats, for instance, we have again the standard tables, but then also like aggregate stat batting lines against the pitcher. We get asked about that, like batting average against. Again, win probability, specific tables for starting pitching, and if he had any relief appearances, you'd see a relief pitching table too, which has things like blown saves that we get asked about a lot. And then for these, we have like quality starts for starters, wins by the team in the games in which he started, not necessarily like wins and losses according to the rule book, but just any start, whether the team won or not. Ratios, again, walk rate, strikeout rate, line drive, ground ball, fly ball, pitch summaries, then some of the situational stats against, and cumulative and neutralized stats. So those are kind of a treasure trove of stats that you can find on the More Stats pages that you might not know actually existed. Now, going back to the main page that we have, another thing that you might not have noticed is we have quick links to those sub-pages on the top of the player's page right up here. So you see, you can go to his batting page. We actually have dedicated fielding pages similar to the More Stats for batting that contain, in addition to the standard table, also like some sabermetric things, runs saved in various categories, games by position, then advanced things that are really esoteric, like double plays turned by type, what kind of errors he made, that kind of thing. And in that situation, you can call any of those up, a minor league page, a complete archive of our news feed for the specific player, the bullpen article, that's the wiki that anyone can edit, that contains a lot of biographical information that we don't necessarily have on the player page, sort of a narrative about a player's career. And even the Oracle of Baseball, which shows you which teammates he played with, it kind of finds a link between two players through the shortest number of teammates, that kind of thing. So you can get that, and when you go down the page, it actually follows you wherever you go. So see, this top row continues to follow me as I scroll down the page. So that's a quick way to get to some of the More Stats pages and the minors and various other things. So I use that especially to get to the bullpen and the minor pages all the time in the course of work. And the bio section itself is another area, that's this place up here at the top of the page, that has a lot of stuff that you might not have seen or maybe glossed over. It shows the contract status of the player, and you can kind of mouse over to see the details, and it'll take you down to the salary page if you click that. Service time, that's through the beginning of the current season, when they're the next free agent, who their agents are, who their previous agents are, when they made their debut, and even the age that we list is actually dynamically updated within the season. So it's not necessarily the age that you see down here in the stat tables, which is the age as of June 30th of the season, but this actually will update as like the day that he turns a certain age, it changes. So that's useful. And it has draft and high school information, and for players that it applies to, also like burial and death information. So you probably have seen that, but just kind of a reminder that that exists and that the age automatically updates. Now here's another way to get to some of the more advanced pages that we have that you may have not seen in the past. So we have game logs for every player going back to the early part of the 20th century, and we have also splits related to that too, particularly for the years that we have play-by-play, very detailed splits. And you may not know how to kind of call those up, but under the standard batting table and standard pitching for pitchers, you can hover your mouse over where it says game logs and splits. In fact, anything that has one of these down-facing delta signs, you can hover your mouse over it and it will call up this sub menu where you can pick something from a list of links. And in this case, you can pick Jeter's game logs from any season that you want of his career, and also the playoffs. And just by clicking it, like say 2001, it'll take you directly to the list of games that he had for that season. And if you want splits, it's a similar process. You can click on any season that you want, and you can also get career splits, which are pretty useful for breaking down guys' platoon splits or anything like that over a big sample. If you want to see his performance in an entire career, even like against a certain team at a certain park in a month, just a lot of the splits that you can deal with, you can access that way with those drop-down links. And then another one is if you're a Play Index subscriber, and the Play Index is obviously the subscription service that we offer, where you can search through our database using tools that allow you to run kind of quick queries on all of our data. And it's something that a lot of people use for research, and I guarantee that if you sign up for it, you won't regret it. If you're a hardcore baseball stat fan, it just provides hours of searches that you can run, and really you can fall down the rabbit hole with it as much as you want. If you are a subscriber to that, this will come in handy because we have game finders, which allow you to run searches on a specific game, like meeting criteria from a player's career or through a range of years, and you can access that by clicking Game Finder under the Finders submenu, and it takes you to the form just for Jeter. And then also similarly, you can run streak finders and event finders meeting certain criteria also just for Jeter or for whatever player whose page you're on, just by hovering over the Finders drop down. And also next to that, you'll see the batter versus pitcher link, which will take you to a form that lets you search all of Jeter's interactions against specific pitchers. So you can set that to any criteria. And you can also access all of these from the Play Index menu itself and then type in Jeter's name. But it's a lot easier if you're already on the player's page to just be able to access it through these menus. And we know they're kind of tucked away a little bit up there. So you just kind of need to know to look for them, and then you'll be able to find things a lot faster using that. Within this standard table, another feature that we have, I already showed you the glossary, you can click Show Minors, and it'll show the player's minor league stats and where they fit in within the context of his overall major league career within that table. And then if you want to hide the minors, you can just click Hide Minors and it goes back to normal. Next to that is the Share Tooltip, and we have other videos that go into a lot of detail about what that allows you to do. But just as kind of a brief overview, when you click that, you'll have the option of condensing the table in question that you want, either by getting rid of columns or rows. And once you've customized the table the way you want it, you can kind of put it in HTML code, which you can then put onto your own site or your blog. You can get a link URL, which allows you to share the table that you've created with someone else. And you can also put it on bulletin boards using the code options for that, depending on which bulletin board code your specific board uses. You can put it in a JavaScript widget, and those are actually cool because they update dynamically, whereas if you chose link URL, you will only be able to freeze it statically in place from the moment that you saved the link. If you use the widgets, which we also have other posts and videos kind of going in more detail about, but if you use the widget, you can actually set up a custom table that every time our database gets updated, it will also update the table that you saved on your site, which is pretty useful for people that have maybe like standings of the division that their favorite team is in on the side of the page, or leaderboards or anything like that. So we found a lot of people use those when they find out about them to get those dynamic stats on their pages. And then you can also access pre-formatted, comma-separated, and iframe, and even put it into wiki format, which is useful if you're putting our stuff on Wikipedia. We've gotten requests for that in the past. The embed feature is the same as the widget that I was talking about before. You can also access that just by clicking embed. And then comma separated and pre-formatted text options are there in addition to being under share, and when you click those it converts the table into the format that you want. And then if you want to go back, you just reload the page to return to the way it was. And when you click link, you can get the link in your browser's URL window or copy it from right here that will take someone directly to the table that you wanted, so it kind of anchors to the specific table that you want instead of just sending someone to Jeter's page in general and then asking them to kind of go down and find exactly what you're looking at. You can target the specific table that you wanted. And then I mentioned this earlier, and this is another thing that we go into more detail elsewhere, but we have news feeds under player news, and this is mostly blogs and also an injury report, where if you send us the RSS feed of your site and you use the linker tool, which replaces player names with links to baseball reference player pages, we'll put your RSS feed in this scanner that we use to automatically kind of figure out who's using our site and which players are being linked on people's posts from their RSS feeds, and we'll be able to link your posts in the player news feed of the players that you mention in your posts, which is a great way to kind of send traffic your way and have your posts gain more visibility because they're showing up actually above the stats on the player pages. So as you can see, even when he's not playing, Jeter has a number of news items in his feed, and if you want, you can get your blog to show up in that as well, and you can just use it as a way of kind of tracking what players are doing. When you go to the player page, you'll see people who have blogged about a certain player, and you can kind of, if you miss something about the player, you can catch up on news about him that way. And we also have the ELO rater, which is just a way of developing rankings for players by asking you, the fans, to vote on a given pair of players, which one was better. And theoretically, over the course of many votes, a system of rankings will come out of that. Just using ELO, which is a chess ranking algorithm that looks at chess players, and when they play each other, whoever wins, it takes into account strength of schedule. So if you're playing a weak player, you don't get as much credit for winning, whereas if you play a strong player, you get more credit. And that's kind of what we've applied to a historical pool of players that we update after every season, I believe. And it just randomly pulls up 2 players that you can vote on. And right here it shows you the all-time rank among batters of the player whose page you're on. So you can click vote if you want to get in on some of the voting process and give us a better set of rankings by lending your wisdom to our rating system. And the last thing that you can find on the player pages that we wanted to highlight was the similarity scores. And you may have seen these before. They're based on Bill James's system of comparing 2 players at a similar age and finding out how similar their seasons are by looking at their stats. But one thing you may not have known in the past is that you can mouse over one of the numbers next to these, and it'll actually show you who the whatever ranking that number applies to player is as a comparison to the player in question. So you can call those up just by mousing and it comes up. When you click compare stats to similars, you'll get a table that contains their stats through the age at which they're being compared. And you can also look from the age that they're being compared forward if you want to get a sense of how similar players tended to perform in the future. That's another way to do that. So these are just a lot of the things that you can do on player pages that you may not have known about, and we get a lot of questions about certain items that actually we do have on the site and we can answer if people knew to go to more stats, if they knew to go to some of the drop downs, if they notice some of the things on the site that are a little bit tucked away. So that's why we wanted to make this video as a service to everyone, to let them know that we have a lot of things that kind of are hidden goodies on the pages that you may not have seen before. And if you have seen them, then great. Congratulations on being a great power user of Baseball Reference. And hopefully we'll get everyone to that point eventually before all is said and done. So thanks again for watching, and hopefully you learned how to use the Baseball Reference pages better and find stats more easily.